Episode 7, The Crest of the Act. Scene 1, The Midnight Council.
The summons came at midnight, not with bells, but with doors quietly opening and names spoken in low, urgent tones. By the time the moon reached its highest point, Hart Square was no longer empty. Grumpy stood near the old well. The cat sat coiled upon a warm stone. A handful of chosen elders gathered in a tight arc, their faces pale in the starlight. The trio was not there. They must rest, Arkhon had said gently. They have given so much already. No one argued. The square felt different at night. Stripped of laughter, stripped of color, even the air seemed to listen. Arkhon stepped forward. There has been movement, he began, his voice calm, precise, unclear at first, a disturbance along the outer boundary, shadows where there should be none. The raven shifted on his perch and let out a single, rough sound. Neither a cry nor a word, enough to seed unease. In truth, it had been nothing more than a change in the wind, the kind that bent tall grass and made branches cross where they had not before, but framed this way, under moonlight, among chosen witnesses. It became something else, a threat. Arkhon knelt and unrolled a large sheet of parchment upon the stones. Lines emerged in the pale light, clean, angular, familiar. This, he said, is a projection prepared by architect Teddy. A murmur rippled through the circle. The worst-case scenario, Arkhon continued, his fingers resting reverently on the map. Total exposure, maximum risk. Teddy created it not as a wish, but as a warning. He was too modest to suggest such a severe measure himself, knowing how heavy the cost would be. He looked up, meeting their eyes one by one. But we cannot afford modesty when safety is at stake. The map showed closures, corridors sealed, paths rerouted, sectors isolated into quiet, obedient blocks, perfect order. For the good of the Dreamwild, Arkhon said softly, I will enact this plan on Teddy's behalf. No one asked where Teddy was, no one asked whether he agreed. If Teddy calculated it, one elder whispered, then it must be right. He sees what we cannot, said another. Grumpy nodded once, slow and final. The decision passed without a vote. Above them, the stars did not move. The square accepted the verdict in silence, and somewhere far from Hart Square, behind sealed doors, behind careful walls, Teddy slept for the first time in days, unaware that his darkest hypothetical had just become law.
Scene 2, The Resonance Fence.
Morning did not arrive all at once. Light crept into the Dreamworld cautiously, as if testing whether it was still welcome. The birds were slower than usual. The wind moved, but without enthusiasm. Something in the air resisted ease. Hart Square looked unchanged. No walls, no timber barricades, no iron gates. Paths still curved where they always had. Stones lay where stones had lain for generations, and yet, no one crossed certain lines. At regular intervals along the square and its main arteries, Small obsidian stones had been set into the ground, polished, unmarked, easy to overlook unless you knew to look for them. Between the stones, the air hummed. It was not loud. Not at first. A thin, high vibration lived there, just at the edge of hearing, like a distant ringing that refused to fade. Those who stepped too close felt it slide behind their eyes, twist their balance, sour their breath. The sound did not wound the body, but it dismantled orientation itself. Up and down traded places, thought loosened, nausea followed instantly. Only those bearing a visible mark, an approved key, could pass without consequence. Animals learned faster than people. A fox halted mid-step and backed away from empty space. Birds avoided flying low across the invisible lines. Even insects curved their paths around nothing at all. Nature had recognized a predator without a shape. Deep within his bunker, Teddy woke to silence that was too clean. His monitors glowed softly, steady and obedient. Data streams scrolled as they always had. Except now they confirmed what should never have moved beyond simulation. Sector A, Isolation Protocol. Active? His breath caught. Teddy rose and crossed to the narrow window. From there, he could see the edge of the square. He could see people stopping, recoiling, adjusting their routes as if guided by instinct rather than command. He knew those lines. He had drawn them. The door behind him stood unlocked. One step outside, and he could shout, one word, stop, would fracture the illusion, but that word would also confess something else, that his model had escaped him, or worse, that it had been wrong. Admitting error meant admitting uncertainty. Admitting uncertainty meant inviting chaos. Teddy's hand hovered near the doorframe. If he intervened now, he would become emotional, unreliable. Just as he had accused the others of being, he withdrew his hand. Returning to the center of the room, he folded his arms tightly, as if bracing against an internal tremor. It's logical, he said aloud, testing the sentence until it held. Temporary discomfort, increased safety, reduced variables. The monitors did not argue. Outside, the high, thin resonance continued. An ever-present ringing that made rest impossible and conversation shorter than before. Around the invisible fence, the Dreamwild grew quieter, not because it was calm, but because it was learning where not to speak.
Scene 3. Lucy is stopped.
Lucy had always known the paths by heart. That morning, she walked one of them without thinking, a woven basket resting against her hip. Inside it lay fresh yarrow, moonleaf, and a small vial of warm sap. Simple remedies for a simple illness. The squirrel on the far side of Hart Square had been coughing through the night. Lucy had heard it in her dreams. Then and panicked, she followed the curve of the path as she always had, and then the world tilted. The sound struck first. A sudden, piercing resonance that slid into her skull like a blade of glass. Her vision fractured. The ground surged upward, then fell away. Lucy staggered, clutching at air, and the basket slipped from her hands. Her herbs scattered across the stones, she dropped to one knee, breath shallow, the high ringing flooding her senses until even her own heartbeat felt foreign. "Lucy!" The voice was steady, regretful. Grumpy stepped into view from beside a tree, his posture firm but his eyes soft. He did not raise a weapon, he did not block her with his body, he simply stood where the line could not be crossed. "I'm sorry," he said, "I truly am." Arkhon ordered the closure, tied to Teddy's plans. The ringing receded just enough for the words to land. "Teddy's?" Lucy echoed. She turned her gaze to the empty space ahead of her. To the neat line of obsidian stones half buried in the earth, to the nothingness between them that now roared with meaning. So the whispers had been true, the careful distance, the silence, the calculations made elsewhere. Her chest tightened. Not with anger, but with something heavier, something that sank instead of burned. She imagined Teddy in his bunker, hands clean, lines drawn. She imagined him choosing safety over her patience, order over care, a prison, built with numbers. Lucy did not argue. She knelt and gathered the scattered herbs one by one, her hands trembling more from exhaustion than pain. When she stood, she did not look at Grumpy again. There was no accusation left in her, only acceptance. "I understand," she said quietly. Turning away from the invisible wall, Lucy walked back toward the care center, her steps slower now, as if each one required permission she no longer had. Behind her, the resonance hummed on, and somewhere beyond it, a small squirrel waited, unreached, unheard, while the guardian learned what it meant to be responsible without authority.